Now, government is considering temporarily increasing grants for the elderly and children. This is an effort to cushion them against the socio-economic impact of COVID-19. The possibility of grant increases was revealed by Finance Minister Tito Mboweni during an online briefing earlier. Our political editor, Vuyo Mboko, is following the story for us. He joins us now live from the newsroom. So, Vuyo, are we talking about all grants or only some, and by how much?
Well, Shahana, the minister specifically mentioned the old age grant, but also the child support grant. Now, you will recall that from the announcement he made in February about, how much or by how much the grants went up. I mean, the old age grant went up by 80 rands together with disability and care dependency grants to about 1,860 per month, whereas the child support grant was increased by 20 rands to about 445 per month. Now, will it go to that extent? That question wasn't answered, and the minister wasn't quite forthcoming as to whether he meant both. In other words, both the old age disability and care dependency grant as well as the child support grant. But he seemed to be leaning towards the old age and disability grant because of its ability to be a lot more distributive. He made the point once again that that form of grant tends to take care of more people than the actual number of recipients of it. Of course, that we will know tomorrow, because that proposal, the minister said, will be tabled at tomorrow's cabinet meeting, and cabinet will then make a decision as to whether and by how much. Let's listen to what the minister had to say.
The issue of the basic income grant has followed me throughout my life. From the time when we were writing the Reconstruction and Development Program up to now, it is a very serious question that cannot be dismissed offhand. Has to be considered, particularly in a situation where you have a proliferation of grants, so one has to consider it as well in the process. It is certainly something that's in my mind. I think about it all the time. I read a lot about it. I study, I analyze it all the time. But as of now, there's been no decision to go along the route of a basic income grant.
So, Vuyo, what about other vulnerable sections of society, like unemployed South Africans who are not recipients of any form of grant whatsoever?
Well, in fact, Shahan, the bite we just listened to was of the minister speaking to that, because the question that was put to him was whether, the issue of a basic income grant was also a consideration, because many people over the years have argued that if you give unemployed South Africans a basic income grant, that will go a long way towards alleviating their suffering. And the minister, of course, saying, as you heard in that clip, that this is something that South Africans have been discussing for a very, very long time. I mean, we're talking 25 years or thereabout, because he speaks there about his involvement back in the day in all the processes that were looking at how to cushion vulnerable sections of South African society, many of whom continue to be unemployed. You know for a fact that, in the last numbers that the Stats SA gave us, it was clear that, we had record high unemployment levels in the country. So there needs to be a way of cushioning those South Africans, especially given the battle we are facing now in combating this pandemic.